You can, if you choose, focus on all of the negatives that social media brings, death and destruction and all of the scandalous behavior, if that's what you choose to engage with. Looking at your feed will tell you a lot about what you're focused on. If your feed is sending you good messages, but if your feed is just death, destruction, scandalous behavior, a bunch of just negative things, bro, that's on you. You're the one choosing that. All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Next Level Dad Fitness Podcast. Today, we have yet another awesome episode lined up for you guys. Super excited with this awesome guest of mine. This guy was actually a key inspiration for me to actually take the step forward and just jump and follow this podcast dream that I had. We're both men of faith, so I personally think that God placed this awesome guy in my life to push me forward and to actually take that leap of faith. And now we're here. We're talking, we have podcasts, we're trying to send a good message. And it's just a crazy thing how, social media, Instagram, how we kind of came together and to grow this friendship and to grow this positive message. I could not be more excited for this show today. So this gentleman is an 18-year veteran of the fire service. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you, Helton Pereira. Helton, good morning, brother. How you doing?
Good morning, Fernando. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to sit down and have a conversation with you. And I'm very honored to be on your show and excited for the conversation that we're going to have.
Awesome, brother. It's a crazy thing. I did touch on the social media part of this. I don't imagine you were a big social media guy coming up. We kind of do this fireman thing and we have this, get your head down, work hard, and don't make any waves. But then social media does have a good place for a lot of things. It's not all negative. That's how we connected. So were you on social media a bunch prior to this?
No, so I have a kind of a weird relationship with social media. And I say that because I was there in the beginning of social media. And the way that I say is I was in college when Facebook started. So it
Yeah.
was, for me, it was just college
Yeah.
students back there and they used to have Facebook. And then they started opening up for, other schools and high schools and then to the general public. So I guess I could say that I have been on social media for a long time, but as far as a presence on social media, not really until a couple of years ago. It's always been something that I share pictures with my family, especially my family back in Brazil. I was born and raised in Brazil. So that was always a way for me to share memories with them and things that I'm doing up here. And so when I started really focusing on having a social media platform, it was really a couple of years ago to want to push a message of positivity and encouragement to men and women in the fire service.
That's very similar to my story. We're both 40 years old. And I know you had a recent birthday, so happy belated birthday to you. So that was about the time. It was a totally different thing. It was a picture thing. It was like MySpace, Facebook, all of these different platforms. And yeah, it's pretty awesome to see how it's transformed over the years. Me personally, I had it for a while and then I was just off for a bunch of years. I thought it was just silly. And then my wife, she's got a fitness platform and she was just kind of documenting her fitness journey over the years. And I was like, cool, that's awesome for you to share that, maybe inspiring other women with her journey. But I never really thought of it as, hey, you can hop on here and you can spread a good message to help others. You can serve others via this platform. That was never a thought. And so fast forward maybe I don't know, a few years, now I find myself in this place where, oh, wow, okay, I can actually speak to men, women, people of the things that I believe are important and the things that I believe could move the needle in a positive direction. So started posting and we're here and we're now sitting on a podcast together. We met via Instagram, and like I said, I believe that God put you in my life to help me, to push me to spread the good message of faith, family, fitness, firefighting, and a lot of other just great things. So such a cool thing. And, I'm super happy that, we're here and we're doing this together.
Yeah, man. I think that the social media world, just like anything else, is just a tool, right? It's just an avenue. It's a vehicle for us to be able to, as you said, spread a message, but also encourage people, equip people as well to do the things that we believe are good for us, good for others. And it's not. I didn't start this to make a name for myself or to get famous or anything. More than anything, is just connecting, right? Just as we are right now. You're in California, I'm here in Virginia. We're able to just jump online and have this conversation.
Crazy.
And some
Crazy.
of some of the best, some of my most recent best relationships have been guys like you who I met online through social media, through their platform, just connecting with them. It started just as, hey, do you want to come and jump on my podcast? And now we have a good, fruitful relationship where we're texting, where we're calling, where we're talking on a weekly and sometimes almost on a daily basis with some of these guys that they have become some of my closest friends. And not only some of my closest friends, some of them are now, we're mentoring each other, we're encouraging each other, we're just pushing each other, whether it's not just in the fire department stuff, we're talking about marriage, we're talking about just fatherhood, manhood, our fitness, and some of the guys we have the same banter that we have on the kitchen table at the firehouse. We're able to have that, with somebody, across the country, which is still, it's cool. It's cool to be able to connect with guys that way. And so I encourage people to, just like you said, just reach out to somebody. If you see somebody online, reach out. It could be a relationship that starts, that develops, and it super positive in a way. So social media can be negative. Yes, there's a lot of negative things that can come with it, but just look at the positive. Look at the positive things that can come from it, from you reaching out to somebody, from you starting your own platform, whether it's just starting a Facebook or Instagram page, or if it's starting your own podcast. There's definitely a lot of positive that are going to come from it. There's a lot of negative that can come from it. Always, critics are going to be negative. As soon as you start doing something that people either disagree with or don't like, but the positives outweigh the negatives 100%, and it's been a really cool journey to be on.
Yeah, definitely. If you choose, focus on all of the negatives that social media brings. You can look at all of the death and destruction and all of the scandalous behavior if that's what you choose to engage with. Just looking at your feed, that your feed will tell you a lot about what you're focused on. If your feed is sending you good messages, if your feed is sending you people that are doing great things or that you want to be like or that you want to engage with, then you're probably utilizing social media in a positive way. But if your feed is just death, destruction, uh, scandalous behavior, a bunch of just negative things, bro, that's on you. You're the one choosing that. So um, go click on 10 puppy pages, and they're all dedicated to little dogs, and click on them and like them. And I guarantee you, your feed will be full of little puppies and dog pages and training and how to train your dog. So it's really just not the algorithm, it's you choosing with your own fingers and your own mind what it is that you're receiving. The social media thing is a tricky one. They do kind of hook and bait you into some of these things sometimes, and then now you're in that algorithm of just the craziness. But being mindful and being, having purpose with your social media, you can do a lot of great things. That's kind of my take on that. Um, so, as you start your podcast and you've had it for a little while, did you ever realize that you were going to be the inspiration for other firefighters to start their podcast? Was that even a thought?
No, not at all, Fernando. And I'm super honored that you shared that with me, and you say that because I guess in a way yes, but not really because I started the podcast, to obviously put out a message of positivity, of encouragement to other firefighters, and I think that that is just naturally what happens, right? So listens to something that I said, or listens to an episode, and that encourages them to take that next step. And I think that ultimately, even though it wasn't the number one purpose, it is very gratifying and satisfying to hear that somebody like you who were on the podcast once now is doing your own podcast and being a positive influence. And that's just the the power of of influence, I guess, that you took a look at what I was doing, and not because it was me that was doing, but that was just maybe that was just that extra, bit of motivation that you needed to say, hey, I think I can do this. I've been on the podcast now. I think I'm now confident enough where I'm able to, I have seen what it's like to start my own podcast. And so it wasn't ever a goal to be the multiplier or creator of podcasts. But if that is what happens, I mean, that is awesome, to just hear that there are more guys like yourself who are willing to step up and step out uh, on faith, and really sometimes to put out a message that is going to be encouraging to other people, to other firefighters, to other dads, to other families. And so yeah, so it wasn't ever a goal of mine to be somebody who is a podcaster of podcasters. But I guess it's it's really just it also it's encouraging, to hear that other people are doing this, and so it just keeps me motivated to keep doing what I am doing. And I am sure that you share this feeling, like this is a lot of work to to put something like this together. It's not just a microphone and some lights. There's planning, there's times, there's emails, there's calendar. This really is a second job.
Oh,
And
yeah.
not only that, like, so I am also taking time away from my family to be able to sit down with you here. And this is good for me. It's good for you. It's good for the people that are out there listening, who are most likely either at the gym, running, working out, mowing the lawn while they're listening. But you and I took time to do this. Like, this is time away from our family for us to sit down and be able to have this conversation, and this podcast. So it is work. It is time consuming. It is also, it's taking time away from my day and my family for me to be able to do this. But I say all that to say that if it is for, as we say in the Christian faith at church, for one more person to get it, for one more person to be positively impacted, it is all worth it. It is work, but it's
Amen.
worth it.
Amen, brother. It's a awesome thing that maybe you weren't thinking this is what I'm going to do. Maybe you just had your own vision, but like I said, God sometimes has other plans, and he utilizes us as a vessel to spread his message. And thank you for sharing that. Has your mission since you started this podcast changed? I know we have a similar mission, which is, our anchor, which is faith, family, fitness, fire. Has that mission changed at all for you, or are you still um, headed in that right direction, in that same direction?
Yeah. So as the T-shirt says, faith, family, fitness, and fire are the building blocks. It's still the main goal. I would say that the way that I would be promoting or talking about it is a little bit different. It is a lot more faith based and minded than before. So the podcast really started out of a place where I saw some holes in just the fire department, the fire service around me. I lost some friends. One friend died of a heart attack. I had friends years ago that had died because of suicide, and then I had a couple other guys who were sick, lost a job, and so just all those things really was kind of what started the podcast. It was at a time that I was really done with the fire department, so the podcast was, hey, let's focus on faith, family, fitness, and fire to make us fall in love with the job again. Because that's where I was myself. I was out of love with the job and I didn't really enjoy coming into work. And so I just wanted to help people kind of fall in love with the job again. And that's kind of how I opened up the show. It was like, hey, welcome to the First Things First, a show where we talk about setting your priorities in the right order to help you fall in love with the job again. But as the show progressed, as more conversations that I had with people like you, it just naturally became something that was more faith based. And it's because that's just who I am. That's just what pours out of my pores. And so the show now is more about just encouraging men and women in the fire service to live on fire for God, be bold in their faith, because I think that is something that we need to as Christians. I think we need to be bold in our faith. And so it's not just about falling in love with the fire service again, which obviously it's always good to be in love with what you do, but it's also to live out our God-given purpose in the fire service. So now it's, put the first things first so you can be in love with the job and live out your God-given purpose through the fire service, which is, as we were talking before, that's how you end up encouraging guys to start a podcast, start a workout in their firehouse, start a Bible study. Man, there have been so many Bible studies just popping up my fire department and in fire departments around me that is really, really cool to see, And
Yeah.
as you mentioned, I've been in 18 years and these things before just didn't happen. People don't just had Bible studies in a firehouse. There's a Bible study happening today at noon at the firehouse that I'm going to be at. It's just cool to see that. So that is how the mission, I guess, of the First Things First have changed in a way. Is not just about helping people fall in love with the job, but it's really helping people being in love and in fire for God, be bold in their faith, just proclaim that out there and help other men and women to do that, to be bold and to start Bible studies, read the Bible more, go to church, be connected to a local church. I think that it is important for us to have faith. It is important for us to believe in God. It is, but it's also important for us to live that faith out and be connected to a local church, because that's how we're going to be accountable, right? If I just say, hey, yeah, I believe and I believe in God, but we don't go to church, like there's who's going to keep us accountable? Yeah, you can say, yeah, well, I only need God to keep me accountable. Yes, 100%. That's at the end of the day, that's who he's gonna judge you, and it is the only person that should judge you. But we were just talking about community earlier, and the church is just that. It's just community. By no means they're full of perfect people. There's definitely a lot of broken people in a church building, but the local church is a place where you can get connected, just like you and I connected, online through social media. But now, like, I would love to be able to just go grab a cup of coffee with you, but I physically can't because we're separated by hundreds, if not thousands of miles, right? But if you're connected to a local church, I can call up a guy that's at my local church. I'm like, hey man, you want to grab a cup of coffee? And it's
Yeah.
the ability that you have to be connected with people locally. And that's what, when we say the body of Christ, that's where they meet every weekend. They get together, they pray, they sing praise and worship, they study the Bible. And so just like you have somebody at the firehouse, right? So let's bring this now to a place where we're all going to understand. If I just say, yes, I'm in the fire service and I just respond from home. Yes, there are places that respond from home, right? And it's it's okay, it works. There are some volunteering systems that still do that, right? But how much easier it is for us to be at the firehouse already and be able to take off when the tones drop, right? What is
Yeah.
the other thing that allows us to do when we are at the firehouse? We're able to train, right? So it's easy to just be like, hey, we're going to get together, we're going to go out to the bay, and we're going to drill on ropes. We're going to do a search drill. We're going to go mess with the saws. We're going to go play with the prop door. It's much easier for us to be able to be there, be trained, be accountable to one another when we're there in person versus, you know, not being there. So that's kind of like what the local church is. And that's why I think it's very important for all of us to be connected to a local church. And so that is one of the things that I am very passionate about, specifically lately, because I think that there are some people that, whether it's church hurt, whether it's because they don't want to, they have something that have happened in the past, because people will let you down. As I said, church is not a
Yeah.
place for perfect people. It's a place of imperfect people. So that's kind of, in a long way, that's what had the mission of the First Things First has changed, to encourage and equip men and women in the fire service to be on fire for God, um, put the first things first, faith, family, fitness, fire, and live out their God-given purpose. And one of the ways that you do that is be connected to a local church, be encouraging to other people, become mentors, become, apostles and disciples of Christ. And what better way and what better place is for us to do that also in the fire service, a place where we're meeting people in the worst times. I'm not saying that we're going to be preaching the gospel to somebody in the middle of an emergency, but it's sometimes it's just it is, you can be a comfort to somebody. You could be
Yeah.
there. There are times that I have prayed in the back of medic units for people. it's
Yeah.
it's it's hey, God, help me to do the right thing, help me to give the right dose, give the right treatment, make the right decisions for this patient. In the same way, when I'm on the front seat of the engine, God, help me, make the right decisions when I get there.
Yeah.
Make sure that I'm guiding my rookie in the right place, telling my driver to do the right things, saying the right things on the radio, telling command what it is that I need to do the right way. All those things, those are things that I am doing. And I don't have a Bible in my hand like preaching, but I have God's conviction on my heart to help me and guide me make the right decisions, say the right things, and do the right things.
Yeah. That's so many points that you touched on there. And I love it. The first thing that I want to touch on is the community of church. And that is such a real topic because um so I grew up Catholic and we went to church on Sundays, but I never as a kid truly felt really connected. And I felt like, it was more kind of like a ritual that we did. And this is no negative, nothing negative to speak on the Catholic Church because that was, the formation. It started there, most definitely. But as I grew and in my faith and evolved, the Christian Church really does a good job, in my opinion, of bridging that the people and the building and creating a community. And the church that I go down, that we go here in Santa Clarita, California, is called Real Life Church, and they have a big area that a lot of people either before or after church, just communicate and they just talk. And they encourage that. So, and plus we got just the awesome weather here in California, dude. Like, come on, you got to be outside. So it's this big, beautiful open space. And yes, they have the coffee. I know there's like critics out there like, oh, go get your Starbucks and everything. Dude, I love coffee. Coffee is amazing. It's just okay, we get the coffee there. All right. And it encourages communication. It encourages people to talk. I'm sitting there. I just heard a wonderful message, and oh look, hey, we get to talk a little bit more about the message. Hey, what do you think about this message? And seeing members of my community, other firefighters, other dads, other just people that we know. It's that community aspect that you talked about that I really, really enjoy going to church. Sometimes we can't always because of the schedule and stuff, but we most definitely go every Sunday. And sometimes my kids got like sports and stuff, but we either go before, we go after, or we'll go on Saturday. We make it a point to show our kids that it is very important to attend. And another thing that I really, really love is that it's at our church, a lot of the kids are separated into age appropriate rooms where they're able to color a book. And what did you color today? Oh, I colored a book of a picture of Jesus. I colored a book, a picture of just a good message. We peek in there sometimes, and the kids are dancing, and they're just on fire for Jesus. And a lot of those things are just age appropriate, and it engages the kiddos in a way that maybe some other church types doesn't engage them with. And that was for me one of the big things is I wasn't really engaged as a kid when I attended church because it was a good message. However, when you're 7 years old, it's hard to listen to um someone talk. It's hard to just say seated when you're 6, 7 years old, much less listen to an important message. So the way that they deliver at these churches, especially the church I attend, I believe really helping my family get deeper in our faith. Another point that you talked about was the stepping into your faith, being bold, and seeing the Bible studies, seeing these groups. That's that's such a cool thing because I have also, the more you put out there, the more God, gives you. And um, I've been fortunate to talk to a lot of people about my faith and not be so kind of like, I don't know, apprehensive, just being bold with my faith, having a platform, small platform, but still having the confidence to talk about it, to be bold, because there's actually a lot of other firefighters, men, women that are believers and that are Christians, and that they do want to express themselves, but they just find it a little bit hard um, because of whatever. Like they just don't feel comfortable talking about it, but they know that I'm comfortable talking about it, and they come to me and we talk, and that is having the platform, I guess, or being out there, being bold with my faith has helped not only them, but it's helped me like have that communication so that they can, step forward and, proclaim their faith. So I've definitely seen that a lot more with firefighters that I work with and that of people just around me that, hey, cool. I'm hopefully helping you out in some form or fashion with that.
Yeah, man, just seeing this growth, and as you said, it's relationship. It's ultimately is what we we yearn for as people is ultimately what we want to as firefighters, as dads, as husbands. We just want to have good relationships, and I think that ultimately, one of the things that a church life helps us with is learning how to relate to one another. I'm not just saying just in a Christianese way, but it just teaches us how to, uh, in a way, serve others, right? Put others before ourselves, whether it's when I am serving my wife, whether it's I'm serving my kids, whether it's if I'm serving the guy or girl standing next to me, in the fireground. It teaches us how to be better at relationships. So that's one of the things that I take from that as well.
Yeah. So before we hopped on, we talked about the Sean Ryan podcast that was released on Easter. And I highly encourage everybody to go listen to it. It's the Easter Sunday episode. I forgot the gentleman's name that he had, but man, that was such a good episode. If you can't get through the 3 hours, listen to it at 1.25 or 1.5. Get through the episode. This thing is start to finish so many wonderful things. And he talks a lot about the resurrection of Jesus Christ. And so I encourage everybody, hop on the Sean Ryan podcast, listen to that episode whenever you get a chance. But in particular, we're in this Easter season, and the resurrection of Jesus Christ is such a huge and powerful event that changed the course of humanity. So what does that mean to you? What does it mean to you as a husband, father, firefighter?
And the resurrection of Jesus Christ is everything, right? It is what we base our faith on. The resurrection of Jesus Christ means to me that he died for my sins, he rose again, he is still living. Jesus is up in heaven, preparing things for us for the day that he's going to come back. But it just obviously gives confirmation to everything that we read in the Bible, everything that we believe in as Christians. It is just confirmation that he died on the cross for our sins, and he rose again, and he is risen, and he's going to be back, one day to rescue all of the believers back. But the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ is just confirmation of what we believe in, and believe that he is our Lord, and he is my Lord and Savior. He died for my sins, and yet he defeated death, and he is conquered death, and he is alive, and he is living. And so when I pray to God, I'm praying to a living God. When I'm asking for something, I'm asking for something from a God that lives, a God that still does things for me, that he's still able to be there for me, not just somebody who is dead. God is alive, and he's real. And so the fact that he defeated death and rose again, proves that he's a real God, that he's somebody that I can relate to, somebody that I'm able to talk to and call on his name, and he's able to answer my prayers and guide me. And just as I was saying earlier, when I am praying to him, he's able to in the moment guide me through what I need to go through. And it's it's man it I was the other thing that I was reading recently in regards to the death and resurrection. I was thinking about, there's 3 days, right? There's Friday, the day that he dies. There's Saturday, which is the day that everybody's waiting, okay, until the third day, which is the resurrection, which is the day that Jesus rose again. Um, the thing about the crucifixion, the death, and the resurrection of Jesus Christ is that a lot of us live on a Saturday. A lot of us go through our lives living on Saturday, and when I say what I mean when I say that is We believe in Jesus. We believe in the Jesus that is on the cross. And a lot of us wear cross necklaces, or we have the image of Jesus in our home somehow. When we pray, as I said, we pray, we're asking for God to give us things, to do things for us, or to help us accomplish something. But God answers prayers in three ways. He says yes, which that's a very, very comforting and easy prayer to hear. He says no. That's a very hard answer to hear, but we understand God said no. But the third one is either wait or not yet. And that answer is the hardest answer to a prayer that we can receive. The no, the not yet or wait is such a hard thing for us to understand and comprehend. And then that's when we start questioning, right? Why? Why not? Why not me? Why not now? How come? When is it coming? And if you think back, I heard Pastor Josh Howerton talk about this. So after Jesus dies, Peter and a lot of his disciples go back to what they knew. Peter was a fisherman before, and Jesus dies, and Peter goes back to fishing. And he talks about Jesus, once Jesus is resurrected, he basically goes 80 miles. Peter had already gone back 80 miles from where he was, from where Jesus was crucified. And that's where Jesus finds him again after his resurrection, 80 miles away from where he was before. So how many of us just like in the period of waiting, just either give up on something or just don't know what to do, and we go back to what we're doing 80 miles away from where we're supposed to be? And so I have been thinking and meditating on that portion, on that Saturday. How am I living through on that Saturday of our lives? Am I waiting with the conviction that God is going to pull me through this and that Sunday is coming? Or am I just giving up and going back to what I knew how to do before? And I'm not saying it's easy. I am on a Saturday season right now. I am in a season of waiting. And my wife, one time, as I am going through the season, she knows, obviously she knows me very well, and she noticed that everything that I was doing was just complaining and having a bad attitude about my waiting season. And she said, "Are you going to pray about this as much as you complain about this?" So in the spirit of waiting, in my Saturday, in my between crucifixion on Friday and resurrection on Sunday, how well am I going to walk through this? How well am I going to walk through this waiting period of my life? Am I going to just complain, argue, have a bad attitude, or am I going to be planted? Am I going to be, still pressing in and pressing on what I'm supposed to be doing, waiting that God's going to answer at the right time, on his time, for what it is to come for me? And so I just wanted to encourage people that are listening to this: if you are on that waiting season, if you are on the Saturday between crucifixion and resurrection Sunday in your life, press in, brother. Just hold on and walk through that season well. Walk through that season well. We're going to walk through some tough roads. We're going to go through some tough times, but God is right there with us. Sunday is coming. The resurrection of Jesus Christ is real. It happened. So just like God rose again on that Sunday, he's going to come through for you. Not on your time. I don't know when that is. It could be today. It could be tomorrow. But God is going to come through. He always does, and it's going to be amazing. But it's going to depend on how we walk. Are we going to walk well through that, or are we not? And so I would rather walk well through it, not go back to fishing like Peter did. And again, I'm not bashing Peter, because Peter is such a rock. He then obviously became a great man of faith and did so many good things for the kingdom. But how well are we walking through that? What are we doing in that period of waiting is very, very important.
Whew, man, that is powerful. I love that Saturday analogy that you mentioned, because a lot of people can relate. I definitely can relate to, being in a season of Saturday. Some things you just have to wait, and you just have to keep the faith. I know we see a lot of that everywhere. You might see it posted somewhere, or you might come across that particular quote, keep the faith. Well, what does that actually mean? Well, it means that you have to keep your faith in Jesus, that he has a plan. God has a plan for you. It doesn't mean no forever. It could just mean no right now. And yeah, to touch on the point of Peter being 80 miles away, yeah, that's definitely a reality for a lot of people. You, for whatever reason, might give up hope, and you say, well, God, this happened to me, and you didn't immediately fix the issue. You didn't immediately respond to my prayers, and you walk away. That's human. That is human. There is no shame in that. However, it is important for us to have these conversations to maybe spark that in someone. I didn't get the promotion. This business isn't happening. Um I'm going through a diagnosis. I'm going through whatever. There's a lot of difficult things out there, but keeping the faith, and hopefully us talking can reignite some faith into somebody who maybe is 80 miles away, right? They're walking away. Hey, come on back. Keep the faith. I love that message. Um, so the show was with Jeremiah Johnson. He was the guest on Sean Ryan's podcast. And for people that are more of the science, give me the science, give me the evidence. This gentleman, Jeremiah Johnson, presents so much scientific evidence, so many historical eyewitness accounts. He goes to all of the top scientists, all of the top researchers who dedicate their lives, their entire lives, to making sure these facts are right. And they test it over and over and over. Thousands and hundreds of thousands of tests that these scientists run. And some of these scientists have no skin in the game. They're not believers. They're just neutral to everything. They're just out there to get the facts. And each and every single one of them point to the resurrection being a historical fact, scientific fact, which is just a powerful thing. And there's so much evidence out there um, that he talks about and that he lays out beautifully, better than I can ever explain. So you guys are just gonna have to tap into that one and really dive deep into that. All right, so let's talk about marriage and why you believe prioritizing your wife first before kids is so important, especially in the line of work that we do.
So I'm going to obviously bring faith back into it. God designed marriage between a man and a woman, and out of the marriage comes the fruits of the marriage is children, right? So without a husband and a wife, there will be no kids. So without my wife and I, there would be no kids. And so the reason why it's so important for me to put her first before my kids, put her first before the job, is because in 20, 25 years, when I'm done, when I'm retired, I would like to spend a lot of time with her. I love my kids, but I don't want to spend my retirement with my kids. I will have raised them. I would have, guided them, taught them, mentored them, and hopefully by then they will have wives and husbands of their own. They will be living their lives, and hopefully, I have taught them and instructed them well. You know, that's why we were talking about taking them to church, every weekend and teaching them and raising them how to be healthy, how to work out, and how to do all those things. So that way, when they are older, they can then be responsible adults. There's a book that I read a while back that the title of the book is Raising Parents, because ultimately, really, that's who we're raising. We're raising the next generation of parents. If you, I'm sure that you have had conversations with your wife that was like, oh, well, my parents were ABC, or they did XYZ, because that's how much of a impression we make on our kids. So the reason why I prioritize my wife is because it's also in a way raising them in the right way and teaching them in the right way, because I hope that their spouses will prioritize them, before
Right.
their kids. And so it's just a cycle that keeps on going. And I play a game with the kids when I come home from work. Every kid wants to be the first kid who hugs dad, and so I have to bob and weave them, and I tell them that the first hug and kiss is for mommy, so they kind of know that, and they kind of, as soon as they hear the car park and the garage door open up, they try to race to the door to grab me, but I always give mom the first kiss. And
That's
I was
awesome.
sharing with you how I just turned 40, and my wife and I spent an amazing 5 days in Cancun, just her and I. We
Yeah.
were on vacation. There is a difference for you guys that don't know. There is a difference between a trip and a vacation. A trip is something that you take with your wife and kids, and you have to plan the itinerary, where we're gonna eat, how much food they have. They're gonna be hungry. You pack the car, or you're flying somewhere, and there's the whole, like, there's no relaxing, right? You're just going to sightsee and be at a different spot, and you're angry with your kids at a different restaurant. They're still eating chicken fingers because they don't want to try the food, even though it's really delicious. So, like, you take pictures to say, hey, we've been to South Carolina, North Carolina, and in California, and we went to Disney, and we went to, like, that's a trip, right? You
Yes.
go places with your family, and there's no relaxing. It's like work, if not more work. And then when you come back from that trip, you want to take another trip because you're tired from that trip. That's a family trip. Okay, they're awesome.
Yes.
They're so important for your family to make memories. Okay, super important for you to spend time with your kids. It's pictures that you look at years and down the line, and you're like, man, remember this good time. It is. I joke, but it's genuinely a great time. Now, vacation is a whole nother thing. Vacation, you get to
Hey.
relax. You just get to
Yeah.
chill. You do nothing but relax. And I was just on vacation with my wife. Not to say that I can't vacation with my kids. Now that they're getting older, we can vacation with them. Everybody can wipe their own butts and they can make their own breakfast.
Yeah.
Our family trips have slowly turning into vacation. But right now, when I look at vacation, I think about my wife and I on a tropical paradise somewhere, usually on an all-inclusive environment where I don't have to worry about cooking, worry about cleaning. It's just my wife and
Yes.
I with no schedule, no itinerary. We wake up when we wake up. We go to bed when we go to bed. We eat when we eat. And the only schedule is what time are we gonna go to the pool and what time we're gonna go to the beach. And
Yeah.
so that was what we did, and it's so important for us to spend those times with our wives and prioritize those things. I have seen something that I adopted called the 222 rule. It's every 2 weeks you try to go on a date night with your wife. It's just locally, whether you're just going to grab a cup of coffee or you're going to go grab lunch or dinner. Every 2 months, you try to do a night away with your wife. Just go grab a hotel room, go to a show, go do something out, dress nice, with a shirt that has buttons and a collar, dress pants, like something nice. And every 2 years, you try to do this vacation like I just did. Take 5 days, take a week, go somewhere. It doesn't have to be international. It doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be, an all inclusive. Maybe just a trip on a cross state line, wherever that state is for you, in a nice place, and just go spend time with your spouse. And those things are so important for you to be able to maintain that connection with your spouse, continue to date your spouse, not just, not just on your anniversary. It's super important for you to know, like, it's not just on your anniversary. One of the things that also, and I'm kind of embarrassed to say that I did this for many years, I wouldn't get my wife flowers if it was on Valentine's Day or anniversary, because it was like, it's such a waste.
Yeah,
And
I
you
know,
know, like,
man.
why do you need flowers? They need flowers, man. Like,
Yeah, they
just go
do.
buy. It doesn't have to be the full, you know, $50 bouquet. Just get her like a $9 bouquet of flowers. Like, it will
Yeah,
make a huge difference,
yeah,
plus, that way, when Valentine's Day come and they overprice that bouquet of flowers, man, usually my wife's like, hey, listen, don't buy me flowers because I know it's overpriced. You always
yeah.
give me flowers. So in a way, kind of, you're saving some money if you really think about it. But it just goes like, if you continually date your wife, if you continually show that you're being intentional and relational to her, it's going to make a huge difference. And here's the thing, I'm going to tell you a secret. It's not really a secret, but if you love your wife well on these little things, the more love you'll make to your wife. I'm just saying, listen, I'm just going to put it in plain English. If you love your
Yes.
wife well, the more love you're going to make with your wife. I'm just Speak your
Yes.
wife's love language, find out what that love language is. Okay, there's
Yes.
5 love languages. If you don't know, it's quality time, words of affirmation, gifts, acts of service, and physical touch. And every fireman is a physical touch, right? Because we love to grab our wives and we love to smack butts and grab things and grab places. But learn
Yes.
that there's 4 other love languages other than just physical touch, right? And however your wife or your spouse learns, or likes to receive that love language, learn them, do them, and add on the 222 rule if you can, and it's going to make a huge difference in your relationship with your spouse. And it doesn't have to be the 222 rule, right? I understand, like, date nights can be expensive. Make it the 333, make it the 444, whatever it is that fits in your budget and your schedule. At least be intentional with spending time speaking love languages, focusing on your spouse, because as I said, if you don't put her first, something else is going to come first. And usually, unfortunately, a lot of times what we put first is our job. And
Yeah.
after 20, 25 years, we're getting ready to retire, or the kids are out of the house, and now you don't have anything else in common with this person that has been your roommate for 20 to 25 years. And then, unfortunately, a lot of times what ends up happening is divorce, or it's affairs, and or worse, or you just end up living as roommates for the rest of your lives, which I think it's definitely not ideal.
Yeah.
So date your wife, be intentional with your relationship with her, date her, um, pray with her, like, that's something that I have definitely found that also, is super important. There are some polls that show that couples that pray together are very, very unlikely to end up getting a divorce. So if anything, man, just start praying with your wife, and then add all the other things in, and your relationship is just going to get stronger and better.
Lot to unpack there. So let's start with the trips. I recently had a trip with my family. We had spring break and we did a little California coast trip. Man, it was beautiful. California is humongous. There's so many beautiful places out here. So we decided to go and make a stop um, trip. And man, I feel like, were you following us? How did you know every single thing that happened? Oh my goodness. There's fighting, there's chicken fingers, there's I don't want this, there's this awesome restaurant we're at. Nobody wants to eat anything except for my wife and I. And yeah, all of that stuff. So that goes to say we hit the Santa Cruz boardwalk, man. Cool little quirky little spot. It was very cool to visit, and we did take a bunch of pictures. There's this all these rides. There's so many cool things to see. The kids had a blast, but yes, it was not relaxing at all. I will say that. Um, but hey, those are just kind of the steps that you got to take. You got to make those memories. And just yesterday, I was looking through my pictures, and this trip was like whatever a week ago. I was like, oh yeah, that was cool. This was cool, and so definitely trips when you have a young family like I do, is kind of what we would do. Vacations will be the next step, and we'll see when we can get to that. But I love it. You were spot on with trips versus vacations. Two totally different things. Go on a vacation with your wife and enjoy the time that you can spend together alone. The other thing that you talked about was the 222. Man, I am writing that down and I am doing that. My wife and I go on date nights regularly. We go about every 2 weeks. Um, but I love the every 2 months. Hey, now we're going to go somewhere and we're going to go get a hotel, maybe a little drive to Vegas, a little quick little turnaround, whatever. LA is pretty close to Vegas, and Vegas is just, I think it's like the ultimate date place where, hey, you want to go somewhere, you don't have to go crazy budget baller status. You can just do a nice little overtime date, right? We're fortunate in the fire service to work the overtime. So, hey, why not spend it on one overtime on your wife, on your soulmate, right? It's not too much. Either way, I love that. And then every 2 years, go on a vacation, like a true vacation. Whew. I am gonna follow that to a T, my friend. That is awesome. I love it. Uh, and as far as the kind of get things get expensive, firemen are funny thinkers sometimes, man. Sometimes you'll look in the parking lot and you will see the biggest, baddest trucks. They got ceramic coating. I was just listening to somebody talk about ceramic. Oh yeah, I put ceramic on there, dude. And it was just like $800. And it was, we got the tires and we got the this and we got the that. And so dinner comes and we're talking about, yeah, it's a, grass fed. And oh, dude, grass fed, like that's expensive, man. Like I'm like, bro, you just don't get it. It's so funny. But hey, man, it's you know, we have this funny relationship with money, and we're fortunate to have jobs and to provide. But I know a lot of people are chuckling right now because, bro, you guys spend a lot on your trucks, and I'm fortunate to have a nice truck. But come on, dude, spend it on your wife. You can do it, or spend it on your health.
For sure, it's priorities, right? And I like that. I like that little. I'm going to add that to the 222 rule. You said it's one overtime shift, man. Just spend one overtime shift on your spouse. You know,
Yeah,
it's a
man.
good goal to have.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you and I are definitely on the same page with the date night and the book that you mentioned, the five love languages. I've read that a couple of times, man. That is a very good book. For anybody that wants to get it, dude, it's like maybe $10. It's not a super thick book, but it hits on a lot of points, as far as what love language your wife speaks. And you touched on the five. And if you don't want to read, get the audio book, throw it on. There's people that don't typically or don't necessarily enjoy reading as much. I love reading, man. Once you mentioned that book, I was like, yep, that's a great book. And I'm actually going to pull it back out because it's been a few months since I read it. So
Yeah,
I
it's
love
called
reading.
Yeah, it's called The Five Love Languages by Gary Chapman. And for those that also like, if you want to go farther too, they have five love languages of your children. And I know that children's one of the things we're gonna touch on next. And so you also need to know the love language of your kids, because every single kid speaks, you know, different languages, you know. So
Yeah,
some kids love just spending quality time with you, other likes gifts, other likes words of affirmation. So in the same way that you're learning how to speak your spouse's love language, you got to learn your child's love language as well, and knowing how to speak to them, relate to them, and knowing how to connect with them. Again, relationships is it really is what it boils down to.
definitely. Definitely. For the dads out there that are super busy, you're working a bunch right now, you're short staffed, you're getting forced, you got all of this mandatory overtime. You're getting just worked so much and you feel like you're falling short at home, you know? What is something that you can change or you can do to be a little more present, to spend the quality time that you have together, to be more intentional with your kids? What is something that you do?
So the first thing that you got to do is remember that you're a dad before you're a firefighter, right? You have to remember that years from now, they're not going to know how many trips you took, right? They're going to remember some, but they're not going to care about that. They're not going to care about how many toys you bought them. They're not going to care about how many bikes or trips to, the skate and fun zone. Like they're not going to care about the things that you bought with the overtime money that you spent on. But they are going to remember is the time that you spent with them. So just be very intentional with the way that you with the time that you spend at work. If you're going to spend a bunch of time working overtime, what is it going to be for? Is it just to buy stuff, or is it to maybe get some more time off? You know, if some departments out there, sometimes they offer comp time where you work a certain amount of hours and you get paid back in a time and a half. So that's time that you can take off to go on vacations, to go on trips, to spend time with your family. There was one point in my career where I was taken off for overtime, and my daughter said, "Dad, why do you work so much? I feel like I don't even know you." And that was a big dagger in my heart, man, because I was working overtime so I could buy her more toys, buy her more things, go to more places. And
Yeah,
so it was kind of counterproductive because I was going to work to be able to provide all those things, but yet I am missing time at home with them. So
yeah,
if you are one of those guys who either wants to work overtime or needs to work overtime to make ends meet, just be strategic with how you do it. When my kids were little, I could just work overtime out the wazoo, because they were little. They didn't know the difference between dad being there and being gone. So as they got older, as they started playing sports, as they started having after school activities, I started having to manage the calendar. So now work with your spouse and say, okay, what days are you working if your spouse work? What days are you not working? What days do the kids have sports? What day do they have church events or school events? And so plan around those things. So for me, the weekends are off. I don't work overtime on weekends because obviously that's when church happens, but also that's when the sports happen. That's soccer,
yeah,
that's baseball, that's hockey, that's all that stuff is happening on Saturdays. So Saturdays and Sundays are off the overtime calendar for the most part. And the other thing too is throughout the week, there's Bible studies, there is sports practices. Um, if you're going to coach your kids, you also have to plan around that. So I would just say plan around your family's calendar if you're going to work overtime. There's obviously going to be conflicts every day of the week, right? So whether you just pick a certain day, or if you do the holdover right after your shift, or if you pick up call back on the night before, sometimes I'll do that too, because hey, listen, you're going to be sleeping anyways, you're not going to notice that dad's gone. So a lot of times I'll work some overnight shifts, so that way they don't notice me missing, uh, physically from the house. So just that's one way that you can kind of work your overtime, and try to avoid seeing you gone all the time. So that's
Yeah.
one of the things. But for me, the other big thing for me too is learning how to connect with the kids before correcting them, because I think that as firefighters, that's one of the things that we struggle with. We are used to order, we're used to a clean firehouse, we're used to everything in the truck be placed in the right spot and not missing. So when you come home and because your wife has been living like a single mother, really, because you're gone for 24 to 48 hours. So you have a single parent in the home with three kids, in my case, and I think your case as well, right? We have multiple kids and
Yeah.
one adult in the house. The house sometimes just turns into chaos. And I'm not saying that my wife doesn't do her work. My wife works harder than I do at work. The problem is there's
Yeah.
three little gremlins that are just, driving her up the walls, and sometimes you just can't catch up. So now you come into that environment, whether you're tired, whether you're cranky, whether you're stressed, you have to know how to decompress and how to put yourself back down to family guy level, not firefighter level. So you have to remind yourself there was no rookie though that put the dishes away in the dishwasher the night before. There was nobody that was supposed to wipe the tables down and put the chairs up on the table and leave everything nice and neat. Nobody was supposed to take the trash out. That was all most likely just your wife after she had to cook, clean, and take care of three kids.
On top of the other things, right?
On top of, exactly, on top of everything else that the life
Homework.
throws. Yeah, exactly. So you have to come into that environment knowing like, hey, I'm on dad mode now. I am on helper mode, not like expect everything to be nice and neat and clean, as it is in the firehouse. And so when you change that mentality, whatever your decompression, whether it's just decompression time or you're driving, or if it's decompression time you go to the gym, or it's just decompression time that you just sit in the car for 10 minutes and listen to whatever music podcast. And so that way you can now connect with your kids rather than just start yelling them at them and
Yeah.
correcting them. That's super important as well.
Gosh, I actually touched on this recently in a episode that I did, and it's called Firehouse to Family Mode. When you walk through the front door, how are you downshifting? Are you downshifting? Because all of the things that you just touched on, our apparatus, for the most part, is spot on, right? We detail the inside, we detail the wheels, we do all of these cool things, and we love order, we love structure because that's the environment that we operate under. There's not a ton of room for chaos. We respond to the chaos and then we handle whatever we need to handle in the emergency. But when we come to the station, we like order, we like structure, we like accountability, integrity, all of these cool things. So you leave in the morning and you leave that environment. You've been there for 72 hours. Structure, order, accountability. You were there for almost a week. Say you worked a week, dude, because that's happens sometimes. Say you work 4 or 5 days. Then you come back and everything is upside down. Woo! You're gonna be lit. These things just set you off. So, what is your expectation when you're driving home? I hope, and I've talked about this, I hope that we kind of downshift the expectations. First, you have to be mindful. You have to be aware of your thoughts. You cannot just be jamming out to Limp Biscuit or some rock band or something crazy. So, just getting hyped up and then walking into your home. And I don't know why I said Limp Biscuit. That came across my Spotify. I was like, oh, okay. I was lifting, but back in 2004. You need to set yourself up, and that requires you to be mindful of the environment that you're leaving. Put on a book, put on a podcast, put on something that's going to get you in a zone where you're going to be okay with some chaos. You're going to be okay. And one author that I love is his name is Dr. Wayne Dyer. He's got a bunch of self-help books and your erroneous zones. I finished recently, and all of these other cool self-help books. If you don't want to listen to him, there's plenty. And I keep touching on the topic of audiobooks, but set yourself up for success with those things. Do not leave your firehouse, then walk into your home expecting the same exact thing, a mirror. It's not going to happen. And those things are just going to light you up. And then on top of that, you probably had a coffee or two. So you're already kind of fired up. You didn't sleep last night. You're running, your cortisol is through the roof. See how all of these things are now coming into play. And then boom, the dishes, whatever, it just lights you up. And then you have a crappy day because you just started the day fighting, yelling at your kids, fighting with your wife. Now you're going to have a crappy day, dude. Now you're going to fight this uphill battle of trying to, because you're going to realize it at some point. You're like, oh man, that was bad. So you're going to try, hopefully, to make up with your wife, with your kids. But they're not just going to be like, oh, okay, cool. They're not like us, dude. You just wreck the mood. You wreck their day. You sent them to school mad, upset, on a bad vibe. And then you get over it. Well, dude, I don't know if this is just me, but the wife isn't getting over it like in 10 minutes.
No, no, and this is the thing that kind of we have to remind ourselves, and just like trust, your spouse and your kids love tank. Well, I call it the love tank. That's what that book, Five Love Languages, talks about. Their love tank, it's filled in drops and it's emptied in buckets. So if you come in, you have, if you have, because for the 2-3 days that you have been gone, you haven't been able to fill that love tank up, right? Maybe with a text message, maybe with a picture, maybe with a phone call or FaceTime here and there. So you're adding those drops into their love tank, trying to fill their love tank up, right? And then you come home and you just are riled up, like you said. You just wild, and you just yell and complain and talk about the things that have you just drained their love tank completely.
Drained it.
You just drained it, and now you're gonna have to work back up again in drops to fill that love tank up. So that's another
Yes.
thing that you have to be conscious and aware of: how you fill your spouse's love tank, how you fill your children's love tank, because they're empty, they're drained. You have been gone for 24, 48, 72 hours. So how are you going to be able, so be somebody who fills their love tank, not somebody who drains it. Super important.
Love it, man. Love it, Helton. All right. So if you could leave a firefighter or a dad listening with one message about faith, family, and the legacy that they're building, what would that message be?
Well, I couldn't do a better justice than just leave you with a passage. It's Matthew 6:33. It's, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you as well. So what I'm saying there is, put God's things first. Put faith, put your family, put your fitness. And then firefighting is going to come last. The reason why firefighting is last is because all those things that come before are going to make your job as a firefighter much easier. If things are doing well at home, if you're taking care of yourself physically, mentally, and emotionally, the job is just going to come easy. You're a person who is rooted in faith, going to church. Your family is rooted in faith and going to church. You're taking care of yourself physically, mentally, and emotionally. And we didn't even get to talk about fitness a whole lot, but
Yeah, no,
take
we
care of
didn't.
yourself. The way
The
that you
next
take
one.
care of other is you're going to take care of yourself. I'm not saying you need to be a marathon runner. You don't need to be a power lifter. You don't need to be doing high rocks and all those crazy things. Like, you just need to be able to be well physically, mentally, and emotionally, so you take care of other people. So seek first the kingdom, and all the things will be added. You know, walk well through your season of waiting. Walk well through that Saturday, and the resurrection Sunday is coming. So that's all I got to say, man. And if you guys want to, I'll do a shameless plug. I talk a lot about this on my book. For those of you guys that are just listening, the book is called The First Things First, and it's just a lot of the things that Fernando and I talked about here. I talk about it in the book. I just share some of my stories, some of my shortcomings. I am not perfect. I don't know everything. A lot of the things that I talk about here is not because I know better. It's because I have made those mistakes. I have stumbled upon those pitfalls. So I just want to encourage people to avoid those, and also be encouraged to live well, and live on mission, and live out the God-given purpose that God has put on their lives.
Helton, my brother, so happy that you joined me here this morning. Very thankful for you and grateful for you. Where can people find you?
So you can find me on social media, at The First Things First. I'm on Instagram, on Facebook. If you want to email me, it's thefirstthingsfirstshow at gmail.com. You can find my podcast on Spotify, on Apple Podcast, on YouTube, and shoot me a DM, shoot me any questions you have. And the other thing that I'll shameless plug as well is, I am holding a conference in October right here in Virginia. It's called the First Things First Conference. Are going to be a bunch of firefighters that are going to be together. It's a Christian fire conference. So people like Blake Stinnett, Chief Andy Starnes, Daniel Alice from Faith in the Firehouse, Cody Testrill from Brothers in Battle. All these guys are just going to, and Griffin Coiner from the Stash Salt. All these guys are going to be on here, and we're just going to spend some time doing some praise and worship, hearing some testimonies, and praying and listening from a word of God, to just encourage and equip guys like you and I to just be in fire for God, be bold in their faith, and live out our God-given purpose.
Awesome. So cool. So thank you everyone for listening to the podcast today. Hopefully you took a nugget or two. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to like and subscribe and share it with another firefighter, another dad, just anybody who would find this message helpful. Thank you so much for joining us here today. God bless.